For years, the world watched me as the ever single sister, the one who raised everyone else's children while my own dreams stayed on hold. People whispered, "Will it ever happen for Jana? Or is she destined to be alone?" Well, the wait is finally over. I have a secret that is about to change my life and the Duggar family forever. I'm Jana Duggar Wissmann, and today I'm finally sharing the miracle I thought might never come. You'll want to hear this? As I sit here today, looking out at the horizon, I can't help but think about the concept of time. We all chase it, we all try to manage it, but time ultimately moves at its own rhythm. I am Jana Duggar Wissmann. For most of you, I've been a constant presence on your screens since I was a little girl. The eldest daughter? That was my title, my identity, and my duty for over 2 decades. But today, I want to step away from the cameras and the noise to tell you a story that I've kept tucked away in the quiet corners of my heart. This is the story of my waiting, my silence, and the miracle I honestly thought might never happen. Growing up in a family of 19 is a whirlwind. There is never a moment of true silence, and yet, in the middle of all that chaos, it's possible to feel very, very alone. For years, I watched my younger sisters grow up. I watched them fall in love, walk down the aisle in white dresses I often helped them choose, and start families of their own. I was the one fixing the veils, the one organizing the baby showers, and the one rocking their newborns to sleep so they could get some rest. I loved them. I truly, deeply did, and I rejoiced in every single one of their milestones. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt sometimes. I remember those late nights in the big house. Everyone would finally be asleep, and the silence would settle in. I would lay in bed and listen to the quiet, and that's when the questions would start. Is there a plan for me, God? Or is my purpose always going to be the helper? I felt like I was stuck in a waiting room while the rest of the world was moving forward. People on the internet had so many theories about me. I read the comments. I saw people calling me the Cinderella of the family. They wondered if I was too picky, if I was forbidden to leave, or if I had simply missed my chance. Each comment was like a tiny needle prick. They didn't know about the tears I cried into my pillow. They didn't see the moments of doubt where I wondered if I was somehow broken or forgotten. During those years, I poured myself into everything else. I gardened until my hands were stained with earth. I picked up power tools and remodeled rooms until I was exhausted. I traveled. I spent time with my nieces and nephews, being the best Aunt Jana I could be. I found joy in those things, but there was always a hollow space inside me, a space shaped exactly like a home of my own and a child of my own. My 20s turned into my 30s. 31, 32, 33, I started to prepare my heart for the possibility that marriage and motherhood weren't in the cards for me. I told myself that I would be okay, that I would find fulfillment in being the sister who stayed. But then everything changed. Stephen Wissmann came back into my life. We had known each other for a long time, but the timing was never right. When we started talking again, it wasn't a sudden, frantic romance. It was like a slow sunrise. For the first time in 34 years, I wasn't the one helping someone else get ready for their big day. I was the bride. Our wedding in August was a dream, but even as I stood there at the altar, a part of me was still guarded. I was 34, almost 35. I knew the statistics. I knew what people said about advanced maternal age. I feared that after waiting all this time for a husband, I might have waited too long to become a mother. After we moved to Nebraska, life became a blur of boxes and new routines. I was tired, so tired, but I blamed it on the stress of the move. I didn't dare to hope. But one morning, a feeling I can't quite describe came over me. It was a whisper in my spirit. I went to the store and bought a pregnancy test, hiding it under some groceries because I was even embarrassed to buy it. I didn't tell Steven. I didn't want to see the look of disappointment on his face if it was negative, and in my mind it was always negative. I took the test in our new bathroom, the one we had just finished unpacking. I set it on the counter and walked away. I went to the kitchen and started folding some towels, trying to distract myself. My heart was thumping against my ribs so hard it felt like it would burst. After 5 minutes, I walked back in. I didn't look at it immediately. I took a deep breath, prayed a short prayer, and then I looked. 2 lines. Bright, bold, unmistakable pink lines. I think I stopped breathing. I sat down right there on the bathroom floor. I looked at the tiles, then back at the test. It didn't feel real. After 15 years of people asking me when it would happen, after a decade of feeling like I was behind everyone else, there it was. A miracle. I put my hand on my stomach, and for the first time in my life, I felt a different kind of silence. Not the lonely silence of the big house, but a sacred, beautiful silence. I realized that every not yet I had heard from God for 15 years wasn't a no. It was a wait for something better. But now, the reality began to set in. How was I going to tell Steven? How would my family react? And most importantly, would this tiny life be safe in my 35-year-old body? The wait was over, but the most terrifying and beautiful journey of my life was just beginning. Sitting on that bathroom floor with those 2 pink lines, I felt like the world had stopped spinning. I must have sat there for 20 minutes, just staring. But then I heard the garage door. Steven was home. My heart started racing again. I wasn't ready. I wanted to tell him in a way he'd never forget, but my mind was a complete blank. I scrambled to hide the test in a small gift box I had in the closet, wrapping it quickly with a ribbon. When he walked through the door, he saw my face and immediately asked, "Jana, is everything okay?" I couldn't even speak. I just handed him the box. I watched his hands as he untied the ribbon. I watched his expression change from confusion to realization, and then to pure, unadulterated joy. He didn't say a word at first. He just pulled me into his arms, and we stood there in our kitchen, crying together. It was the first time in my life I felt like a secret was actually a gift. We decided right then that we wouldn't tell anyone else just yet. We wanted to hold on to this miracle, just the 2 of us, for as long as we could. We wanted to savor the quiet before the storm of public attention began. But keeping a secret from a family of 19 is nearly impossible. A few weeks later, we traveled back to Arkansas to visit my parents. It was a strange feeling walking into the big house, knowing I was carrying a new member of the family. I found myself wearing baggy sweaters and avoiding certain foods at the dinner table. I remember sitting across from my mom, Michelle, during breakfast. She has this way of looking at you like she can see right into your soul. She caught my eye and gave me this knowing, gentle smile. She didn't say anything, but in that moment, I knew she knew. There's a connection between mothers that I was only just beginning to understand. Finally, the day came to tell everyone. We gathered the siblings together. I was so nervous. My hands were shaking more than they did on my wedding day. When we finally shared the news, the room exploded. My sisters, Jill, Jessa, Jinger, Joy, they all rushed toward me. They were screaming, laughing, and crying all at once. They kept saying, "Jana, we've prayed for this for so long." To see their joy for me, after I had spent years being joyful for them, was one of the most healing experiences of my life. It felt like a circle was finally closing. However, the honeymoon phase of the pregnancy didn't last long. Soon, the reality of my body changing set in. What they call morning sickness should really be called all day and all night sickness. At 35, I think my body felt every single symptom 10 times harder. There were days in Nebraska when I couldn't even leave the bed. I felt a type of exhaustion I had never known, not even after pulling all-nighters to help with the younger kids back home. I started to have those dark thoughts again. I'd look in the mirror and think, am I too old for this? Can my body actually protect this baby? Stephen became my rock during those weeks. He did the grocery shopping. He cooked the meals, even when the smell of food made me run for the bathroom. And he sat by the bed and read to me when I was too tired to keep my eyes open. He kept reminding me that this was what we had asked for. This was the miracle. The turning point was our very first ultrasound. I remember the cold gel on my stomach and the sterile smell of the doctor's office. I was gripping Stephen's hand so hard his knuckles were white. And then, there it was on the screen, a tiny, flickering light. That's the heartbeat, the technician said. Thump, 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 thump. It was the fastest, most beautiful rhythm I had ever heard. In that moment, all the nausea, the fear, and the years of waiting vanished. I wasn't just Aunt Jana anymore. I was a mother. I realized that this little life didn't care about my age or what people on the internet said. This baby only cared that I was its home. As I moved into the second trimester, I began to feel a new kind of strength. My baby bump started to show, and every time I caught my reflection, I felt a surge of pride. I started planning the nursery, picking out soft colors, and imagining a little person sleeping in the crib I was choosing. I realized that my years of helping my sisters weren't a waste of time, they were my training ground. I had learned how to swaddle, how to soothe a crying infant, and how to be patient. God wasn't making me wait for no reason. He was making sure I was the most prepared mother I could possibly be. The secret was out, the sickness was fading, and for the first time in my life, I was finally looking toward a future that was entirely, beautifully mine. The period everyone told me I would enjoy the most, and they were right. For the first time, I didn't just feel sick, I felt pregnant. My clothes were getting tighter, my energy was returning, and I finally felt like I could breathe again. But more than the physical changes, it was the emotional bonding that took me by surprise. In Nebraska, away from the constant noise of the big family house in Arkansas, Stephen and I had a lot of quiet evenings together. We would go for long walks as the sun set over the plains, talking about who this little person might be. Would they have my eyes? Stephen's calm temperament? My love for gardening or his skills with his hands? It was during these walks that I realized how much this baby was already knitting us together as a couple. We weren't just Jana and Stephen anymore. We were a team preparing for a new member. I remember the very first time I felt a flutter. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting on the sofa reading a book when I felt a tiny, strange sensation. Like a little butterfly trapped in my palm. I froze. I waited. There it was again. A tiny thump from the inside. I burst into tears right there in the living room. I called Stephen immediately, even though he was at work. I couldn't wait to feel that life moving inside of me, to know that it wasn't just an image on a screen or a heartbeat on a monitor, but a living, moving human being was the most profound moment of my life. During this time, I spent a lot of time on the phone with my sisters. It was a different kind of conversation now. For years, I had listened to them talk about cravings, kicks, and nursery themes. Now, I was the one asking for advice. Jessa and Jinger became my go-to experts. We would spend hours talking about everything from the best strollers to the fears of labor. I felt like I had finally been initiated into a secret club I had watched from the outside for 15 years. They didn't treat me like the older sister who knew everything anymore. They treated me like a peer, a fellow mother to be. One of the most beautiful parts of this segment of my journey was the gender reveal. In our family, we usually do something fun with the whole group, but Stephen and I wanted something more intimate. We wanted a moment that was just for us before we shared it with the world. When we finally found out, well, the color didn't matter as much as the reality that this was our child. Whether it was a boy or a girl, I realized that I had already spent 35 years learning how to love this baby. I started spending my afternoons in the room we had designated for the nursery. It was still mostly empty, but I would stand in the center of the room and pray. I prayed for the baby's health, for their future, and for myself, that I would be the mother they needed. I began to realize that my age, which I had feared so much, was actually my greatest asset. I wasn't the same girl I was at 20. I was wiser, I was more patient, and I had seen so much of life. I realized that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The wait hadn't been a delay, it had been a preparation. I was no longer looking back at the years I lost, I was looking forward to the years I was about to gain. As I entered the 3rd trimester, something shifted inside me. They call it the nesting instinct, and for someone like me, someone who has always loved home renovation and interior design, it hit me like a tidal wave. Suddenly, every corner of our Nebraska home needed to be perfect. I found myself looking at walls and seeing possibilities for shelves. I looked at old furniture and saw pieces that could be sanded down and repainted for a nursery. My body was definitely feeling the weight now. Walking became a bit of a waddle, and getting comfortable at night felt like a complicated puzzle of pillows. But even with the back itches and the swollen ankles, I couldn't stop. I spent hours in the nursery. I wanted this room to be a sanctuary, a place where time would stand still. I chose soft, neutral tones, colors that felt like a calm morning. I remember spending one whole afternoon just organizing tiny socks and onesies by size. It seems such a small thing, but for a woman who waited 15 years to buy her own baby clothes, every tiny button and every soft fabric felt like a miracle in my hands. Stephen was right there with me. He's so handy with tools, and seeing him build the crib was an emotional experience I wasn't prepared for. As I watched him tighten the bolts and test the strength of the wood, I realized that this wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was a promise of safety, of rest, and of a father's love. We sat on the floor of that half-finished room, surrounded by sawdust and paint cans, and just talked about what life would be like when the cries of a newborn finally filled these halls. There is a specific kind of beauty in the 3rd trimester. You feel the baby's movements not as flutters anymore, but as strong, deliberate kicks and stretches. Sometimes I'd be in the middle of a project, and a sudden movement would take my breath away. I'd have to stop, put my hand on my belly, and just wait. In those moments, I felt a connection that transcended words. I wasn't just building a room, I was being built into a mother. My sisters would call and check on me, laughing as they reminded me to put my feet up. They knew my personality. They knew I'd try to remodel the whole house before the due date if I could. But the 3rd trimester also brings a certain kind of solemnity. You realize that the waiting is almost over. For half of my life, I was waiting for a husband. Then I was waiting for a pregnancy. And now I was waiting for a person. I began to spend more time in quiet reflection and prayer. I thought about my own mother and the strength she showed through 19 pregnancies. I gained a new level of respect for her that I never could have understood until now. I realized that motherhood is a constant state of giving your body over to another life. The nursery was finally finished. The crib was ready, the blankets were folded, and the hospital bag was packed by the door. I would often go into that room in the evening, turn on the dim lamp, and just sit in the rocking chair. The silence of the house felt different now. It wasn't empty anymore. It was a silence full of anticipation. I was 35 years old, standing on the edge of the greatest change I would ever know. I felt like a marathon runner who could finally see the finish line. I didn't know exactly what the labor or the delivery would bring, but I knew that I was ready. Every year of patience had led to this moment of preparation. As December arrived and the Nebraska winter began to settle in with its frost and early sunsets, I reached a point in my pregnancy where time seemed to slow down to a crawl. In the beginning, the months flew by, but now, every day felt like a week. At 35, carrying this much extra weight was no small feat. My back ached, my sleep was interrupted every hour, and even the simplest tasks, like tying my shoes or reaching for a garden tool, became a major production. But strangely, I didn't mind the discomfort. To me, every ache was a reminder that the miracle was still there, growing, thriving, and getting ready to meet the world. I spent a lot of my time during these final weeks just watching the snow fall outside my window. I thought a lot about my life before Stephen and how different this Christmas season felt compared to all the ones before. For so many years, Christmas at the big house was about the noise, the dozens of gifts, and being the big sister who made sure everyone else was happy. This year, in our own quiet home, the focus was inward. It was about the tiny life moving rhythmically inside me. It was about the realization that by the time the snow melted, I wouldn't just be Jana anymore. I would be Mom. There is a certain kind of vulnerability that comes with being a first-time mom at my age. I found myself reading every book, watching every video, and double-checking every piece of baby gear. I wanted to be perfect. But then I would talk to my sisters on the phone, and they would remind me that there is no such thing as a perfect mother, only a loving one. They told me stories of their own final weeks, the nerves, the false alarms, and the sheer desperation to finally hold the baby. It made me feel so connected to them. For the first time, I wasn't the one giving them advice on how to organize their lives. I was the one receiving grace. Stephen has been more than I could have ever asked for during this final stretch. He's seen me at my most exhausted, my most emotional, and my most frustrated, and he hasn't wavered once. Sometimes we just sit in silence, his hand on my belly, feeling the baby's hiccups. Those are the moments when the fear of the unknown, the fear of labor, the fear of the life change just melts away. We are in this together. We waited a long time to find each other, and that wait gave us a foundation of strength that I don't think we would have had in our 20s. The nursery is now completely ready. It's almost like a museum waiting for its main exhibit. I walk in there sometimes and just smell the new wood of the crib and the scent of baby laundry detergent. It's the smell of a dream coming true. I've started writing letters to the baby in a small journal, telling them about the world they are coming into, about their grandparents, their dozens of cousins, and about how much they were wanted long before they were even a thought. As the calendar turns closer to January 2026, the anticipation in our house is electric. My hospital bag is sitting by the door, and every little cramp or movement makes Stephen and I look at each other with wide eyes, wondering, is this it? I know that my life is about to be divided into two parts: the 35 years before this baby, and the rest of my life after. I am standing on the threshold of the greatest mystery of womanhood. I'm tired, I'm sore, and I'm a little bit scared. But more than anything, I am ready. I have spent a lifetime preparing my heart to love someone this much. The countdown is almost over, and I can finally see the beginning of the rest of my life. This is segment 6. This part focuses on the spiritual and internal preparation, Jana's reflections on her family legacy, the Duggar name, and how she is choosing to parent differently while honoring her roots. Segment 60, Faith, Legacy, and Finding My Own Path 50 to 100 altered an English prompt for voice maker. The tone is deeply spiritual, wise, and calm. The narrator sounds like she is sharing her most private thoughts. The pace is slow and deliberate. Use soft cinematic strings or a very low, ambient synth for the background key. As the days grow shorter and the world outside turns white with snow, my thoughts have turned inward to the things that truly matter. When you grow up the way I did, in a family that is known by millions, the concept of legacy is something you think about often. For a long time, I wondered what my legacy would be. If I never married or had children, would my life still have the same impact? Now, as I prepare to bring a new life into this world, I realize that legacy isn't about a name or a television show. It's about the values we carry in our hearts. I've spent a lot of time in prayer lately. My faith has always been my anchor, but during this pregnancy, it has become something deeper, something more primal. I feel a connection to every woman who has ever walked this path before me. I think about my mother, Michelle. I think about her strength through 19 births, her patience, and her unwavering faith. While my life looks very different from hers, I am starting this journey at 35 in a different state and in a different time. I find myself leaning on the lessons she taught me, but I'm also realizing that I have to find my own way to be a mother. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in this waiting season is that God's timing is rarely our timing. For years, I felt like I was behind, like I was missing out on the best parts of life. But now, as I stand on the edge of motherhood, I see that the delay was actually a mercy. I am entering this role with a maturity and a sense of self that I wouldn't have had at 22. I know who I am now. I know what I believe. And I know that I have so much more to give this child because I waited. I want my son or daughter to know that it's okay to go at your own pace. It ain't okay if your life doesn't look like everyone else's. Stephen and I talk a lot about the kind of home we want to build. We want it to be a home of grace, a home where our child feels seen and heard as an individual. Growing up in a huge family, you sometimes feel like part of a crowd. I want my child to know that even if they are one of many cousins, they are a singular, unique miracle to us. I want to pass down my love for the earth, the way a garden grows with patience and care. I want to pass down Stephen's quiet strength and his integrity. I've also had to face some of the shadows of the past. Being a Duggar comes with a lot of public weight. There have been hard times, public struggles, and heartbreaks that we've had to navigate as a family. As a mother, I feel a fierce protectiveness. I want to shield my child from the noise of the world while teaching them how to be a light within it. I want them to be proud of their family, but I also want them to be free to write their own story just as I am finally writing mine. There's a peace that comes with this stage of pregnancy. The anxiety of the first few months has been replaced by a quiet confidence. I look at my hands that have gardened, built furniture, and held so many of my siblings' babies, and I realize they were being prepared for this. These hands are ready to hold my own child. These hands are ready to guide, to comfort, and to protect. I am not just carrying a baby, I am carrying the future. And for the first time in 35 years, I am not afraid of what that future holds. I am ready to embrace it with open arms. This is segment 7. This part focuses on the final practical and physical preparations, the waiting game of the final days, her specific birth plan, and the intense emotional bond as she and Stephen prepare to leave for the hospital any moment. Segment 70. The final preparation and the hospital bag a well 100 ha English prompt for voice maker. The tone is a mix of heightened anticipation and quiet, focused preparation. The narrator sounds ready. There is a sense of urgency, but also a deep, calm resolve. Use the sound of a ticking clock or a slow, rhythmic heartbeat in the background to build tension. We have officially reached the Any Day Now stage. My hospital bag is sitting by the front door, staring at me every time I walk past. It's a strange feeling, packing a bag for the most important trip of your life, not knowing exactly when the departure time will be. I've checked and re-checked the contents a dozen times. The tiny newborn outfits, the softest blankets, the camera to capture those first precious seconds. Everything is in its place, just like I've spent my whole life trying to keep things in their place. But I know that when the time comes, all this organization won't matter nearly as much as the strength I'll need to find within myself. Stephen and I have spent a lot of time discussing our birth plan, coming from a family where home births were the norm for so many of my siblings. I've had to really think about what's right for me, Stephen, and this baby. Given my age and this being my first pregnancy, we've decided to be in the hospital where we have the best medical support available. I feel a great sense of peace about that decision. I want a calm environment, soft music, and as much privacy as possible. I've realized that being a Duggar often means living life in a fishbowl, but this birth is a sacred moment that belongs only to us and the Lord. The physical reality of these final days is intense. My body feels like it's reaching its limit. The baby is so low now that every step is a chore, and the Braxton Hicks contractions are becoming more frequent. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'll have a contraction that feels so real I reach out and grab Stephen's hand in the dark. We just lie there, eyes wide in the moonlight, wondering if this is the start of it. There's a beautiful, terrifying electricity in that silence. We are standing on the edge of the unknown, and all we have is each other. I've been spending my mornings doing light nesting, mostly just dusting the nursery for the 100th time or sitting in the rocking chair, practicing my breathing. I look at the calendar and see the January dates circled. It's 2026, a brand new year, a brand new life. I find myself talking to the baby more than ever now. "We're ready when you are," I whisper. I tell them about the snow outside and how warm it is here in the house. I tell them about their daddy, who is already so protective and so ready to meet them. I've also been having some final heart-to-heart calls with my sisters who have gone before me. They've been giving me the real talk about labor, the parts the books don't always mention. They've told me to trust my body, to remember that I was built for this, and to not be afraid of the pain because of what's waiting on the other side. For so many years, I was the one bringing them ice chips or rubbing their backs during labor. Now, it's my turn to walk through that fire. I feel a strange sense of bravery. I've waited 35 years for this pain, and I'm going to embrace it because I know it's the only path to holding my child. Every time the phone rings, I know it's a family member checking in. The excitement in Arkansas and Nebraska is reaching a fever pitch. But here, inside our four walls, it's quiet. We are in the eye of the storm. I've finished all my projects. The garden is dormant under the snow. The house is clean, and my heart is full. There is nothing left to do but wait for the baby to decide it's time. I am no longer the single sister waiting for a life to begin. I am a mother in waiting, and I have never felt more alive than I do in this heavy, expectant silence. This is the final segment, segment Ave. This part concludes the journey, moving through the intensity of labor, the first time she holds her baby, and her final, powerful message about hope and God's timing. Segment 80. The moment everything changed and a new beginning, L110-1000 to 120-100 to English prompt for voice maker. This is the emotional climax. The tone should be breathless and intense during the labor description, then transition into a soft, tearful, and incredibly peaceful whisper for the ending. The music should build to a crescendo and then fade into a single, beautiful piano or violin melody. Then, it finally happened. In the quiet hours of a cold January morning, the waiting was over. The contractions changed from a dull ache to a powerful, undeniable force. I remember looking at Stephen in the dim light of our bedroom, and we both knew this was it. The drive to the hospital felt like a dream. The world was asleep under a blanket of snow, but inside our car, our whole world was about to be born. Labor was the hardest thing I have ever done. At 35, I thought I knew what strength was. I thought I knew how to endure. But labor stripped me down to my very core. There were moments when I felt like I couldn't go on, when the pain felt larger than I was. But every time I felt like giving up, I felt Stephen's hand in mine. He didn't leave my side for a second. He was my anchor in the storm, and I remembered the 20 years I spent waiting. I told myself, Jana, you waited 15 years for this person. You can do this for a few more hours. And then, in a sudden rush of emotion and sound, the room changed. I heard that first, sharp cry, the most beautiful sound I have ever heard in my entire life. When the doctor placed that warm, tiny body on my chest, the world simply stopped. All the years of being the aunt, all the years of wondering if I'd ever have this moment, all the comments from strangers, all the lonely nights. They didn't just fade away, they were redeemed. I looked down at those tiny fingers, that little nose, and those eyes that looked just like Stephen's, and I finally understood. This was why the wait was so long. This was the prize. The first few days at home have been a blur of sleepless nights and absolute wonder. I find myself sitting in that rocking chair I spent so much time in while I was pregnant, but now it's not empty. I look down at my baby, and I realize that my life is forever divided into before and after. I am no longer the Jana you used to know. I am a mother. I am a protector. I am a teacher. And I am finally completely home. I wanted to share this story because I know there is someone out there who feels like I did. Someone who is 30 or 35 or 40 and feels like they've been left behind. Someone who is tired of waiting for their dream to come true. I want to tell you, don't give up. Your waiting season is not a waste of time. It is a season of growth. It is a season where you are being prepared for a miracle that only you can carry. God didn't forget me, and He hasn't forgotten you. My arms are no longer empty. My house is no longer quiet, and my heart is more full than I ever thought possible. January 2026 didn't just bring a new year. It brought me my soul's deepest longing. Thank you for walking this long, winding road with me. It took me a little longer than most to get here, but I can tell you with all my heart, it was worth every single second. This isn't just the end of my story, it's the beautiful, messy, wonderful beginning of our new life. I am Jana Duggar Wissmann, and I am finally right where I'm supposed to be. Before I go, I want to say something directly to you. For years, you've watched me grow. You've cheered for me in the comments, and you've prayed for me when I was still waiting in the silence. You are more than just viewers to me. You've been my companions on this long journey. Now that this new chapter has finally begun, I don't want to walk it alone. I want to take you along as I learn how to be a mother, as I navigate the sleepless nights, and as I discover the world all over again through my baby's eyes. If my story of waiting and hope touched your heart today, please subscribe and join our little family here. Click the notification bell so we can stay connected because I have so much more to share with you. Not as the Jana you used to know, but as the woman I was always meant to become. Thank you for being part of my miracle. I'll see you in the next video. I love you all, and remember, your season is coming. Just keep the faith.